Hello and welcome to FeVR Dreams podcast. We are recording this live on the 27th of March 2022. This is season 3, episode 2, also episode 15 in total. I'm your host Corben. With me is Cypher as my co-host. Hello, Cypher.
Hello.
And we have a special guest. And our special guest today is Akshay from Shockwave.
Hi.
Hello, Akshay. How are you doing?
Hello, everyone. I'm good.
Thank you very much for joining us.
I'm very excited to be
Glad to
here.
have you here.
Same here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, we have a lot of questions to ask you, and we are very happy that you are able to answer them, all of them. Let's dive right into it, I would say. So I know that some of the suits, so this is all about the Shockwave Suit. And now we have probably to explain what is the Shockwave Suit. I mean, the name already kind of is self-explanatory. So it's a suit you can wear and it's sending you shockwaves.
Shockwaves, exactly.
So it's a suit you can wear and it's meant to be worn in VR, if I'm correct.
Yes, but technically it can be worn without VR as well. It's a body tracking and haptic suit. So the main thing is that in VR you have immersion. So you have your headset and the body tracking, the position tracking of your suit works in tandem with the headset. So without the headset, you can still track your body, but your position won't be recorded. So it works best with VR, but let's say for motion capture and other areas where you just need the rotations, it will work just as well.
Oh, motion capture. So for movie production where they are trying to do CGI and stuff. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
That must be what one of these is.
So as long as you have one point, an anchor point with whose position is given, in VR it's the headset, you can track your whole body with it. And that's the basic concept behind the suit.
Okay. And
this is consumers to put themselves into the game for the most part, right?
Yeah, exactly. So as long as the position is correct, you'll be completely immersed. You won't feel any difference between the tracking and the, let's say something with absolute tracking. For example, you have Steam VR trackers and the Vibe trackers or Tundra trackers who have absolute positioning. As opposed to that, over here you only have a single anchor, but because of the accuracy of the rotations, you feel exactly the same.
Yeah, as you said, it's also a tracking suit. Does that mean it is replacing the Steam VR tracker so that some people are using on their feet or hip or something like that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So what it does is, once you have your anchor point, let's say your headset, and you have your controllers in your hand, now you know the rotations of all your bones. So you know what angle your thigh is oriented at and what is your spine angle and everything. It computes all of that. And when we calibrate it, it calculates your bone lengths based on your positioning. And then it simply interpolates the data that you have, the rotations, and gives out the position of the tracker. So you know where your feet is because of the fact that you know where your headset is and you know all your angles. So it's kind of inverse kinematics. So it's forward kinematics. We are telling where you should go rather than knowing where you are and then interpolating back, which Vive trackers and usually the tracking that is done. So this is the opposite of that. But the end result is exactly the same. Yeah, you end up with trackers exactly where you would if you had absolute position tracking. But you do it at a much, let's say the refresh rate is much higher because you have internal IMUs, which are well known to be have refresh rates which can go up to 1000 hertz or something. So this is way more precise. Of course, the biggest restriction or constraint we have is that your height needs to be correct and your bone lengths need to be correct. If they are not correct, the error will increase and then maybe you are off by a few centimeters or so. So if you follow the calibration steps correctly, you'll end up with almost identical results to any of the standard tracking methods.
Okay. And the suit is now available to customers already, or is that still in the process of being worked out?
So the suit is currently being assembled for Kickstarter backers. So we opened for Kickstarter in 2020, at the end of 2020, December. And we have had some delays, but now it's all rolling. So we have had a lot of development changes. So for instance, initially we did not have Bluetooth, but now it's working with Bluetooth and a bunch of compliance issues as well. But at the end, we have successfully created a product, at least the hardware side. The software still, we are working on it. And we will be shipping to our Kickstarter backers this month itself. We have started shipping already to actually some people who are in favor as well. So, and the first few backers should receive their suit by the next week or so. And then we'll open for retail soon enough. After that, we'll get a review done. So that's probably our plan. And we will discuss that as well as podcast.
Yeah, okay, but before we discuss that, let's go to the beginning. As you mentioned, you were doing that with the Kickstarter campaign. What made you choose or go for Kickstarter? Because I think you were reaching out to companies and probably showing what your idea is. And from what I see is you do a Kickstarter if you have the confidence that the device will be good, but others are not that confident, and that's why you have to do it on your own. What was the process to get to Kickstarter?
Right. So before going to Kickstarter, or even before the suit, so I'll recap as to what we were, me and Shantanu, who's the other co-founder of our company we were doing. We were working with VR arcades and developing body tracking solutions. So I think the first one we had in 2016 or something, it used the Kinect, and then you would use multiple Kinects with a bunch of interference, of course. But at the end, you would have some immersion and then some preliminary haptics at that point. It was not as advanced or as position accurate as the one we have now. And people used to love it in arcades. It's just a 5-minute experience. You just go there, people just feel the buzz, and they're like, oh, this was the best time of their life. And then we eventually found out that the tracking wasn't good enough for the game. So if we came up with the idea to have an IMU suit, and then the number of trackers kept on increasing from 3 to 5 to 8, which was in the Kickstarter, and now you have 12 in the final version. So that you get more position accurate results. And initially we were not looking to compete with, for example, Steam VR trackers, because we were also using them, and we were like, this will be an assistance. You can just use them in your game. But then as it progressed and the accuracy increased, we figured out we can just completely replace all of the Vive trackers with a single solution. And I think as Xypher has also seen, now you get all 10 trackers that are allowed by Steam VR in any of your games. So why we went for Kickstarter was, I think, primarily one of the reasons was COVID.
Oh,
so
I see.
So after we were done with these VR experiences kind of thing, because most of them shut down during COVID times, right?
Yeah.
So then we had to regain confidence on the product, because that product hadn't been tested for consumers. Mm-hmm. It was just for businesses with a small outreach. So in order to test the product and get more, let's say, public outreach at that point, because we didn't even know what the consumers wanted. And I think some of the first few who came to us was Xypher and people from FeVR itself. I remember a year back, we had a long conversation, and then people were suggesting a lot of things. And that actually helped a lot with our product development, as we came to know what actually people needed. So I think a Kickstarter was a very good idea to start with, to get idea about what needs to be in the product. And then finally for retail, because I think as everyone knows, retail users won't be so forgiving to delays so until you have a final product in your hand, which has been completely tested, you cannot go for retail. So Kickstarter was the best bet at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And as I think a lot of us know that have backed Kickstarters, there's a lot of skepticism that comes with that. starting a Kickstarter, being the company that's starting a Kickstarter that everyone's scrutinizing. And then publicly, I know that Thrillseeker had even mentioned on one of his videos, like, is this even real? Is this a thing? And that was about 2 years ago. And now we're seeing, hey, look, it is actually real and it does work. I think it's amazing that you guys have come this far. How did you all deal with all of like the negativity and the skepticism that came from building a new product like this and being first in the market, with everybody like, okay, is this real? Should I invest in you, or are you just going to be another vapor thing? Or, you know, how did you guys deal with that?
That's a very interesting question, because that is something that we have struggled with as well. So when we started the Kickstarter, of course, the first few backers always are positive about it. But then, especially after the Thrillseeker video, I remember a lot of negative comments started coming in. And it's quite understandable, to be honest, because at that point, there were no third-party reviews of the product. So you're just a company showing their product. And we had some tracking videos, but like everyone can agree that they were not the best tracking videos at that time. We had a suit with 8 sensors at that time, and we tried our best to show it in some demo games. But at that point, we didn't have the Steam VR driver, so we couldn't show it in, for example, games which are well known or anything. So I think it was partly our fault as well, and our outreach was also not good enough because that was our first Kickstarter anyways. But I think with time, we understood that there are backers who are very positive, and then there are backers who are negative and are more skeptical. So there's nothing you can do about it at the end of the day. You just have to do whatever you had planned and hope for the best. And then hopefully the people who actually were very positive about it in the end get rewarded with the best product. Because one of the major reasons for skepticism at that point was the price. So for super early backers, it was really cheap compared to what the technology was at around for both body tracking and haptics. And one thing I would like to point out is that we didn't start with like, our goal was not, let's make the cheapest haptic suit there is. We just made a suit and we just did a cost analysis and how much we could get it for. And then that's just how we decided the cost. So people were really skeptical in the beginning, but how can it be so cheap? And we were like, it just is.
A lot of sense. Especially with the way that the chip shortage has happened over the last years. And it's complete chaos in the tech market. I know that much.
So that has actually been one of the biggest reasons for the delay. So the IMU sensors that we have been using, they're out of stock for 6 months or something. So we have had to change so many vendors, get them from China, and then switch vendors for the best rate, because the rate is also now for the sensors is almost increased by 2.5 times. So sensors which you could get for like $2 or $3 now, you don't get anything in the market for less than $6, even in bulk. So that has been quite a big issue that has happened.
So but I see the Kickstarter campaign had been successful, right?
Yeah.
And when I have a look at the page, I just linked the Kickstarter page in our chat. So the super early bird had been just $265. How much?
No, this is Singapore dollars.
Oh, that's a Singapore dollar. Oh, okay. So it doesn't tell me.
Actually, $195 US.
Okay. How will the price be different from the Kickstarter early bird thingy to the retail later?
So the retail price will finally be revealed. I think we'll get a review done and then we'll reveal the final price. But it will obviously be higher than the final tier of the Kickstarter, because of course backers had that advantage. It won't be too high because partly the reason is, as Cypher had mentioned, the chip shortage and the increase in cost has just increased the cost of the suit overall. So there's no way we can actually come even closer to that rate, which was mentioned before, but it won't be too far off from the expectation that we had put out earlier. So the final price and the cost will be, I think, when we start for retail in around a month, we'll mention that. But yeah, it will be a balanced approach.
Okay.
It won't be too high,
sure.
Not too low.
Can you give us a figure? It'll definitely be less than, at least?
Less than 400.
Less than 400. That's a good number.
399. What I see also is the amount you collected through Kickstarter. Was that enough to develop the whole thing,
Actually,
or did you have to reach out?
No, because we already had an investor before.
Okay.
So like I mentioned, well, it was, it comes with strings, right? And one of the biggest things that comes with strings is you have to have a product which the market needs. And that when COVID happened and then the market shut down for arcades and everything, the investors also kind of, let's not just say that they pulled the money back, but they were like more hesitant to put more in. So, but majority of the development actually we did with the money from the investors rather than the Kickstarter money.
Oh, okay.
So that's also one of the reasons why we didn't ask for a lot from the backers, because we already knew that that had to go into manufacturing. But at the end of the day, again, because of the chip shortage, it wasn't enough to do it. So we'll have to plan around how to get past it now. So we have a rough idea of what to do now, especially with like retail orders and everything to fulfill all the backers. But I guess
it's very, very reassuring for all of the Kickstarter backers to hear that you're shipping. Holy cow, it's happening.
Yeah. So we recently had an updater for it, and we've already shipped the first batch. The first batch is not as big, but we have at least given it to the courier, and then they'll coordinate with it. And I think many people from FeVR will be able to stream soon enough with the suit. And actually, a lot of that will be due to the help from Xypher, who had helped us with debugging and improvements, which we did.
I was glad to help. It was a really great experience working with this and helping kind of tune things a little bit.
That's really cool. As you mentioned, hardware-wise, you're pretty good to go. Software-wise, there is still things on the roadmap.
Software on the games, like the driver side. Mm-hmm. The firmware is almost done from the hardware, so it doesn't need to be tinkered with much. It's just drivers which are for the Bluetooth, and I think StreamVR driver needs a little bit of work, but that's under process right now.
Oh, okay.
Which, by the way, the Bluetooth connectivity on this thing, I've been using over Bluetooth 5, as they recommended, using Bluetooth 5 for it instead of Bluetooth 4, but it does work with both. It's been amazing. I plug it in, it's connected. Like, as soon as any software wants to talk to it, it's, hello, I'm ready. It's really great.
That sounds really encouraging, because as you might know, I'm using Linux as my main operating system. And if those are like the standard connections, then it might even work out of the box for Linux users as well. Is that something you're interested in to get to work, or looking into at all at the moment?
Yeah, we are actually. So currently, I don't think the driver will work with Linux. It's more or less, we have tried to keep it operating system independent, but still there are a few sections which need to be changed. Our next goal would be to have an Android version for Quest standalone users.
Ah, okay.
And
that should help.
That. I was curious about that, because currently working on some Android builds for Cyberpunks at the moment, so we're hoping to test that out as well.
Of course, it will just be natively used in that because of the StreamVR thing. So people will have to develop mods for it to work, but
of course,
we are also working with a few developers to get mods, especially for VR chat and others. For the operating system, I think the Android would be our next priority, and then Linux is definitely on the card. So it should not be much different than that.
Oh, that's really cool.
That's awesome.
What I'm interested also in is, as you mentioned, you are working with game developers. Will there be like the showcase game where your suit will be used with the first support officially?
Well, we have our own set of games, but which were mostly based on the VR arcade kind of experiences we had, and we had modified them to work with the suit. So we'll be shipping those demo games as well to the backers, and they'll be available for download as well. But as far as the showcase game is concerned, I don't think. I think we'll have to leave it to the developers to actually use the native SDK for something. But of course, with SteamVR, anyone can use it in any game you wish.
It will work more or less out of the box because SteamVR is having all the connections and interfaces, and that's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things is that tracking will always work in any game which uses SteamVR trackers, and the haptics need a little bit more work because there's no direct way of introducing any haptic simulation with SteamVR. So you have to use some backends, and but at the end of the day, I think people will be able to use it in most games as we gradually develop more.
I've seen there is another is it? I don't know if it's a full body suit, but a vest where also some haptics can be introduced on the body. So probably it would be after a certain time of mature, maybe Valve will introduce an API for those things because more products in that kind might show up on the market.
Yeah, that is definitely an expectation. I think OpenXR might actually even come up with a way to do that as well. And
OpenXR.
Currently they have introduced some extensions for using trackers, and with trackers, you can always send haptic commands, which was in the original OpenVR API as well. So maybe a modification of that or some addition to that might help it. For example, they added the treadmill, right, which was initially not part of it. So as technology gets more accepted, maybe they have a haptic suit, complete haptic suit as one unit, and then you can just connect to it or configure it in any way you like. So that's definitely
good. Standards are good. Standards are good. Okay.
So
obviously, depend on the acceptance.
When more and more people are using that and more games are supporting that, so from my own experience, I know that playing VR for a certain amount of time is pretty exhausting. So you start also sweating and stuff. How do you deal with, is the suit washable? Can you put it into your washing machine?
Right, so the suit is washable. We wouldn't recommend putting it in the washing machine though, because of, because of so many shearing forces. The best way we have tested it in the washing machine. It came out fine, but we wouldn't recommend it for regular wash cycles.
Okay.
You might end up
not covered under warranty if you put it in the washing machine.
Okay.
What you can
wash only.
What you can do is you can hand wash it, and we'll provide a silicone cap which will plug in your connectors, your power connectors, and then the suit is more or less waterproof. Yeah. So.
Okay, that's cool.
The plug right here is the only actual electronic component that's exposed to the environment. Everything else is self-contained in the suit.
So you can just plug it with the cap that we provide, and you're good to go for the washing. And for the sweating, I think we came up with, it's not an innovative solution, but it's very easy. That there are holes right near the armpits.
Yeah, this is great.
There where you're probably sweating the most at the junctions. There are holes. Okay.
Yes, it actually.
I think the only thing that might have been better is if you had a little mesh strip here, maybe, but I can see how it would be a little difficult. But I love the design.
Bunch of electronics and just cable management in there. So with that, but I think this was a very good design change that we did, which actually most of the odor problem was just solved with just removing the parts near the armpits and the holes. And other than that, the suit is very breathable. I think Cypher would also agree. You can sit in it for a long time, and of course it's a full body suit, so you have more regions which are covered and all. But I think the temperature does not increase too much compared to, let's say, a regular gym wear.
It doesn't. Just yesterday, in fact, I had this thing on all day yesterday, trying to get one of the features for this stream to work that we still spent a couple hours on, and didn't quite get working. But playing Beat Saber for around an hour and a half with the suit on, and the ambient temperature in the room was around 70 degrees, so it wasn't particularly cool in here. I think that by the time my stream was over, it was at a sweltering like 78 degrees, and I was barely sweating like anything extra in this, even after playing so much. And like, I think that's really a testament to the type of materials that you chose for the suit. They're very breathable, and it's just very comfortable. I have nothing else to say about that, really.
You just mentioned you had to do, or you were doing design changes. How many iterations design-wise did you go through?
Oh, if you could count all of them. But they were, even after the Kickstarter campaign ended, we had so many iterations. If you go to our previous updates, we had a suit. So what happened was the Kickstarter suit that we had before, it was also made of a similar material, though this one is even of a better quality. And but the problem was it was not washable. So we didn't used to wash it, we used to wipe it with or steam press it. Yeah. But now that it's in the hand of the consumer, you need some way to clean it. So the first thing we thought about was we'll just make the whole suit waterproof, like use neoprene or some wetsuit materials. And then we came up with an orange suit, which was just a disaster. And I think people...
I thought it looked cool. It looked really cool.
It would have been unique for sure.
I don't know what we were thinking, but anyway, that didn't last long. But at least the electronics were tested in that. And the end result was you just can't protect your electronics with the fabric. You can wear your entire wetsuit, and water will always find a way to enter from somewhere. So there was no way, and it was not breathable at all. So it didn't make any sense. So the next thing we did was, let's make the electronics itself waterproof. So now the cases that protrude out of your back, I think all these cases, they have been properly sealed and waterproof. And the end result is that even if you submerge it in, actually, if you submerge it in and even run it, well, of course, your battery will get wet, which is a problem. But if you take the plug out, it will still work. That's a testament to how much it can actually take. So, but we would, of course, recommend people to actually take it out, dry it, and then use it just in case, especially the power connector.
Has some sense when it comes to the fact that it does have electronics in it. The shearing forces will break things. Definitely make sure that you're a little more gentle with the cleaning process. Makes sense.
And I think the iterations on the hardware side, when we started with, this was, we were using some proprietary RF. So we used to have a dongle, which you could connect in your PC. Of course, it has its own set of problems because you can't connect to Android, or you need some sort of interface.
Makes a lot of sense.
So Bluetooth at that time was not considered because of a very simple problem. The refresh rate in Bluetooth is not very high. At least the conventional wisdom is that the refresh rate is not very high. And for body tracking, you need it to be very high. But then when we just tested it, especially with Bluetooth 5.0 and using a different chip, we just found out that it was more than good enough and produced almost exactly the same results as the proprietary solution. So there was no reason not to go to Bluetooth. First of all, it's accessible to all operating systems and all platforms. You can even use it just with your phone. You can just go outside on a night and just use your phone and activate the haptics with just your finger. That can also happen, right? Once you have the Android driver, nothing's stopping you from making anything. You can just even
wear your suit outside, keep your cell phone in your pocket, and you can track your whole walk.
Oh. Yeah, I could totally imagine there will be some interesting use cases, not only for games, but also for probably social interaction. I mean, COVID is the best example that people are staying at home, but having a suit where you can transfer hugs, maybe that's the easiest thing. Yeah. So that will open up possibilities.
Obviously, most of the things that we're going to be doing with these will be in virtual reality, but you bring up a great point. If you could just hook it up to a phone and walk around in actual reality with it, what possibilities are there? What can you do with that? I mean, it's not going to be a common thing, obviously, but that's
Yeah,
It's interesting. It's interesting.
I mean, you have lights over there as well, so you can just go in a club and vibe out as well. You can track your dance moves, and you can connect your audio with it. You can connect the audio to haptics. There are a bunch of options that people can explore. So once they
that's right. We have a light on the back that we can play with. That's full RGB too.
Yeah. So that was also one of the iterations, things that were added. That was just a design choice, but it helped with the initial idea behind the lights was something else, but it ended up just being as an on-off switch.
Oh, okay.
So,
I mean, the fact that it's built into the API and you can still change it, I think that's a really great little extra feature.
Yeah, I mean,
developers to do.
It's just something that gamers can use. For example, you can put your health bar on it, and then just people can see it if they want to stream it. If your health goes down, the light will change. Or the left and the right are individually addressable, so you can change your health, mana. People can come up with whatever they like. Yeah.
Akshay, you're blinking red. Get some help.
Yeah, I mean, that has been one of the big advantages in the game called Dead Space, where you didn't have any UI elements anymore, because everything that was needed to show you, like health or whatever, was shown on the character itself. You had a spine that was representing the health. And I mean, if you are playing in VR and can have that on your back and playing in mixed reality, what could be better? Getting rid of all the UI elements will increase the immersion a lot. So yeah, that sounds really awesome.
Looking forward to seeing what's done with the haptics and things in real life.
So yeah, I think as it gets more accepted, people will obviously come up with innovative solutions to whatever they can do. Of course, the prime example of that is your streamer board itself. That is a use case which we hadn't thought about. But
yeah, let's talk about that briefly. We were trying to set up some interaction here for you guys who are watching live on stream, and we had even images from the suit, and there is this heat extension available on Twitch where the mouse clicks can be sent over to the streamer, and the streamer can do actions with it. And we tried to transfer that over back to the suits that Akshay and Cypher are wearing right now. Unfortunately, it's not fully working. We are testing on that, and maybe there will be a follow-up episode where you can then play around with it. Nevertheless, what you can do now still is you can poke Cypher. And we do have a shock command.
Just right here.
You have a shock command.
It still works. So.
That does work in chat. I will issue it right now. So ! shock, and Cypher will be, oh!
I felt that.
So everybody can try the shock and poke Cypher a little bit live on stream. That's just something for the people who are here at the live recording. Later on YouTube, of course, that won't be possible. But yeah. So interactions are really possible in a huge variety of ways. So that will be really interesting, not only for gaming, but also for stream interactions and stuff. So yeah, no, it's not a poke, but it's a shock, because it's the Shockwave Suit, all right?
It's shock. Yeah, and it's not, to clarify, it uses haptic motors. It doesn't actually like shock you. It's not making contact like a TENS unit does. It's not sending electricity through your body. It's vibrating little motors. And they're very effective at conveying things are touching you, things are hitting you. We had spoken a little bit on, while I was working on some of this interactivity, the refresh rates on the actual motors and kind of how things work behind the scenes, and like the research and that had been done on haptic information, how the body processes and all that. Can you talk on some of that?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting point. So, for example, you already mentioned that haptics or tactile simulation involves a lot of different techniques. You can one of the techniques is, of course, vibration motors, which we are using, and there could be, for example, electrical simulation, which I think there are other products which use that. Of course, it's slightly more complicated and involves some risks compared to just having vibrations. But of course, at the end of the day, what we want is to fool the nervous system. You're immersed in the VR world, and we want to give you a sensation that your brain can't distinguish from an actual sensation in the real world. So one of the things is that there's a delay in the way your brain responds to sensations. So the first thing is you can't just go arbitrarily fast. You can't, especially on your body, you can't have like a millisecond response rate. So you need a little bit of time for your brain to respond to it. So what we do is we go faster than that rate. So for example, in our case, you can refresh it at 25 milliseconds, but that's still way faster than what your brain can respond to. So you can poke around with it, you can do a lot of things, and your brain will still be fooled. The second thing what you can do is the position interpolation on your suit. So it has 72 motors right now with 40 on the torso. So when you have so many motors, but there are still points which are not accessible. So what you can do is you can use multiple of them together, and you can control their intensities and durations, their off times and on times. And what that does is it allows you to smoothly interpolate across points where there is no motor itself. So especially in one of the demo scenes as well, I think which was Xypher also did in his stream, which involved you can take a sword and you can hit your back. And if you do it with a sword, you can actually just draw on your whole back, and you can feel like the interpolation happening. So you can draw your like characters or whatever you want. But the point is that your brain doesn't know, tries to ignore a lot of details, and we fill in those details in a way that makes you think that that was a real sensation. For example, the rain drop demo that you also saw, it's not real, but the way the duration for which it works makes you feel that it's something real. So it's all a combination of your how much amplitude you're giving and how much duration you're running it for. And also one more thing is its combination with body tracking. That's very important for immersion. So if you just have a haptic suit which doesn't have body tracking, at the end of the day, it won't be very effective. So when you move around, you should feel, for example, if you raise your leg or something, you should feel the difference on your leg compared to, for example, your body. So if you move, if you bend down, your back should feel it if there's something on the above, coming from above and everything. So the combination of the tracking and the haptics works together in a VR world for that immersion to happen.
Yeah, it's very effective too. With the rain demo that I tried out, you stick your arm out and you can see your arm in the virtual world. And when that water hits your arm and it's splashing all over you, that's where you see it. That's where you expect to see it. And you just kind of accept that that's what's happening. There's no like, oh, that feels weird. No, there's rain hitting me.
I see just a question from Maxima Benedict in chat. How strong is the feedback? Is there something where you can compare it to, like you have a stone that's the maximum, or can you describe?
Well, like from my perspective anyway, as with any haptics, like you would have on a controller, and I'm going to throw out a comparison here that I know not everyone's had the opportunity to experience, but a PlayStation 5 controller does some really amazing things with haptics if you've ever experienced that. And it's more about how the haptics are triggered and like how it's implemented in the game itself as to how effective that is at portraying exactly what's happening. The impact strength is, I would compare that to like a cell phone motor. So it's a really strong, noticeable vibration. But the way that it's used, if it's pulsed very quickly, or if it's like tick, 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 and, sent out in 3 little pulses, or, however it is, as Akshay was mentioning earlier, there's been a lot of research into how the body reacts to all those things. So it's really about how it's used than about how strong the suit itself is. But it is very strong individually for each motor. When you activate all of them at once, it gets a little bit weak because it's trying to balance the power load over all of it, and that is a lot of voltage. But for the most part, any individual area that it's triggering at once feels great. It's just larger regions. If it's trying to hit it all at the same time, it can't quite get to full power, it seems like. But it's very, very, very good.
Okay. As you mentioned that the load is then balanced over your suit when you are triggering all of them. How is it powered? Do you have, you mentioned also there is a plug you need to put in, the silicone plug, if you wash it and so. Is it connected all the time to a external power source, or do you have a battery with it? How is that done?
Yeah, you can.
So got battery packs.
It's coming with a battery pack, but you might also be able to.
This is an example.
Power it externally.
We have the same batteries as well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Too.
So yeah, there's two options to power it, and of course you can power it with your AA batteries. You need 3 of them, and that actually works the best for body tracking. If you're just going to be using your body tracking, you can use it for days or weeks on end. It's very low power, and it just keeps on going. For the haptics, however, I think one of the things I was mentioning before was because of the refresh rate at which we are doing, we need to drive the motors. We need to overload the motors actually, but that's what we are doing. We are making it very fast by overdriving them, and that requires a lot of current. So sometimes as the battery dies down for AA batteries, they just can't provide enough current. So then maybe a few of them will work, but if you drive all of them together, the AA batteries just can't provide it. So that's why we have a second option. And the second option is we provide a USB to DC jack cable with it. And what you can do with that is you can I'll just show what the cable. So this is your DC jack connector, and on the other end, you can just connect it through a USB port. So currently I'm driving it through my laptop, but technically that's not allowed. You have to use a portable power source. So you can use your battery charger or not charger, sorry, a battery pack. And there's a slot on your side. There's a pocket.
Little pocket right here. I had a little bit of a blowout because my my USB battery is a little too large, so that was my fault. But it's a nice spacious pocket, but this battery is rather big, so but fits right in there.
Okay. I just see that Shantanu from Shockwave is also here in chat and giving us some trivia. This is the 7th version of Shockwave design-wise.
Wait, hold on. So is it the one that Akshay is wearing or the one that I'm wearing? Which revision is this?
Well, this one is one before mine, so.
Okay.
So Akshay, you have the latest design?
I have the latest. I also have one which is one before what Xypher has, but that's just a bunch of wires. That's what it is. So.
Okay. 6 is the clothed version of 5. Okay.
Yeah. More or less. A more comfortable version of 5.
Bram is asking, will we see a demo of the full body tracking in his stream? So Xypher, you did already full body tracking, right, on your stream?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did full body tracking on the stream last time. We hadn't planned on doing it for this chat, just because it's a chat, but I suppose we could revisit that too.
Oh, Shantanu says, no, I have the latest. Okay, yeah, there's apparently a new design already out there. Okay, Shark Cookie is asking, is it audible or do you need to place your ear on it? So for the motors, are they audible or is it just a low volume vibration?
A couple times.
We shall shock you a little bit.
Here.
We don't hear it.
What I can do is
broadcast.
I can't hear it.
I can use it.
It's not really audible through microphones. Like it's just a little. It's less audible than your phone vibrating.
Okay.
It's just a very slight little rattle. Like you can hear it, but it's not like invasively loud. It's just like, okay, like maybe a mouse shuffling in the corner kind of volume.
I think what I can do is I can locally excite the haptics from the build, and then maybe because I don't have the noise cancellation on, maybe you'll be able to hear it. For example, right now there's one somewhere near my shoulder, I guess. Can you hear something over here? Yeah, it's
barely
not that audible.
Yeah, it's barely audible. I could imagine something, but I couldn't. If it would be in normal noise, I wouldn't be able to tell that's the vibration of the suit at the moment. Yeah.
I think when a bunch of them activate at the same time, then you feel that there is.
Yeah, it is a little bit louder. It sounds like maybe a hive of bees around the like behind a wall, like a really muted hive of bees.
Yeah, I mean, normally when you are doing, the main reason you wear that suit will probably be games, and then you have a headset on, and you probably won't hear that, and other people won't hear that. Not that much either. Krindish is asking. Do we have to worry about specific chemistry AA batteries, or do regular rechargeables provide enough voltage?
So for AA, the only rechargeable battery you can use would be the 1.2 volts one, which is usually the nickel metal hydride or something, which is usually less than what is a stable range of this, but it will work for a while. The best thing to use with this would be then. Yeah, I think it's 3.6, so 3.3 is around the range at which, which it starts to get unstable. So I would recommend using alkaline batteries, like new alkaline batteries, especially for body tracking. You can use anything. It works all the way till 1.8 volts, so you can just go crazy. Just use any battery you want for as long as you want. It's very low power, but for haptics, I would recommend either using the power bank for all that extra oomph if you want, and otherwise using alkaline batteries for AA. New alkaline batteries.
So far, in my experience, one of the power banks with at least 1 amp of power available is perfectly fine. That's way more power than it even needs.
Tria is asking even, have you considered an optional utility belt for accessory storage like battery packs or holding the VR sticks?
Like Batman.
Like Batman?
But we do have a belt to this. You can punch. There is a belt which is used to tighten up around the.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You can just stuff your cell phone in the side if you need to for tracking. Set up Deca Move on your cell phone to help extra if you need it. And like, what else I have? Some chapstick just in case lips get chapped while you're playing VR. Perfect.
Okay, so there is a belt coming with it. It doesn't have extra pouches, but probably it's tight enough so nothing will fall down. Depends on the size, though. Right. Yeah, size. That's also probably something. What happens if somebody has a suit and the person's size changes? How flexible is the material? Do you have to buy a new one if you are getting older and eating a lot?
So it's working with Cyphers.
Perfect. Put your controllers right in the suit.
So for the sizing, I think because of the material of the suit, it stretches a lot. We usually recommend going like a size lower than what you usually wear. So if you, for example, wear a size 38 for your t-shirt, you would order a 36 on the suit. And
I think with this, I could probably survive a couple of Thanksgivings, and it would still fit me.
Oh, you would survive even more than that. We have had. You can go even 4 sizes up, and that will still be fine. Of course, you will strain the cables if you order the wrong size too much. You can't go like 6 or 8 sizes up, but for more or less, it spans 4 sizes, and I think if you order correctly. And especially with the waist belt, I think if you shrink your waist or you lose weight, you can use that waist belt to actually manage that issue as well. So I think you'll be more or less fine with even if you change your size too much. I think 4 sizes should be good enough for this.
Poppy Starks is asking, I think that's for you, Cypher. The previous stream had a lot of issues related to calibration. We were promised a new stream with a demo of the suit. So the question was if this is the stream for the demo or if that will come in the future. I think we will see a lot of more content coming up from Cypher and also from FeVR members who will get a suit. I think I need to order one now as well.
Calibration. the calibration issues were 100% my fault.
Well, I think one of the concerns from us was that it was not very user friendly. To be honest here, and I think with a lot of feedback from the testers, beta testers, and Xypher as well, we're trying to make the calibration process much more accessible to people. So it was not a lot of information. Yeah, there was not a lot of information.
I started working with them too.
So for example, one of the biggest issues is height, I think, when we consider, because we were always like, when I personally use VR, the first thing I do is calibrate the Stream VR floor. But then people who are just using Oculus Quest or something with a link cable, they don't usually do that. So that's also an issue. So then you're stuck with a very bad setting for the floor. Your height comes out to be like 1 meter less than what your actual height is. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the cast, that the suit uses your height to interpolate the tracker's position, because the only thing the suit knows is rotations. And what we are doing is we're calculating the bone length now. If your height is incorrect, your bone length would obviously be incorrect. So the height is the accurate value of your height is very important. For that, you need the floor to be calibrated. So then the other option, I think, which has come up now, is to just manually let people adjust it. And if you just keep your height the same in all games, so for example, you're playing VR chat and you adjust your height the same as in our software, it will be perfectly fine. So there are a few changes which we have done in the calibration process, and I think at the end result, people would be very happy with it.
It sounds like your end goal is to make it basically plug and play and just let people use it instead of having to worry about all the calibration nonsense, right?
Yeah.
I would like to come back to the motors, because you were mentioning about fooling the brain and the delay the brain needs for realizing what's going on. I guess, I mean, from what I know, we have a lot of nerves in the fingers, for example, and there probably you have to be very accurate. But
exactly.
Over all the other body, it's different. Where did you have to put the most motors to get to fool the brain the best, and where could you save on motors? Because I know on the back you can put a bunch of fingers on it, and most people will not be able to distinguish how many they are.
Right. So this is also a bit of trivia, but have you heard of the homunculus man?
Yes.
So
it's face, hands, and genitals are with the most nerves. But all the rest,
it's a representation of the amount of nerve endings you have on your body, and then it's sized up appropriately. So your hands are huge and your face is huge, but your rest of your torso and everything is very small. So essentially, that is the point behind the suit, is that when you're using full body haptics, you have a lot more freedom to choose the spots. So as long as you're not hitting the sensitive spots, well, there are a few in the body, as for example, over near your armpits, I think, and then near the shoulder. Those are quite sensitive. But compare that to the legs, for example. So on the thighs, we can get away with 4 motors and interpolate it, and you'll still be fine because they're not as sensitive. But over here, for example, along the armpits and the upper torso, chest, it's a more sensitive area, and neck as well. So I think you have, initially we used to have 4 there, but now we have 8 just to help with that. And then you have on your lower leg as well, for example, near the calf, it's also very sensitive. So we adjusted the number of motors to account for that. But then, like you mentioned, a very important point, what about your hands or something? So that's a different ball game altogether. So you wouldn't use the same technique that we have used in this for gloves anyways. So if you have like haptic gloves, you need almost a few millimeter accuracy. You can't just use motors at different points. You need accuracy in time as well. So you need to, because it's much more sensitive. So you need to, in order to fool the brain, you need to work on a lot of things. Also with gloves, you have many more things. You have force feedback, you have temperature feedback, and it's not the same product. I think people just think haptics and like the suit and the gloves are related, but it's a completely different thing. You can't relate them.
Once we start getting into heat in haptics, that's going to start getting crazy.
Yeah, that's
for figuring out how many motors you need. You mentioned the homunculus, but did you do actual research yourself, or were you referring to medical reports, or how did you get that
I think
information?
Initially, when we started with medical reports, like reports on anatomy. Then there's a lot of literature on tactile simulations and how it's still, I wouldn't say it's an exact science as of yet, because it's mostly based on statistics. You have like a group of people who experience something, and then you find the average of what would be the general perception. But at the end of the day, after that, we experimented quite a bit for a period of more than a year, when we actually tried different motors, not just the motor that we're using right now, but different technologies as well. You use piezo's, you use LRAs, you use these ERM motors, and you try to find out what's the best way and what you can get away with. So of course you can make the most complicated haptic suit in the world, which will cost like $10,000. That doesn't solve your problem, right? That's not going to add anything to your experience. So you have to find a balance, and that's what we did. First, we did the research on the actual literature that was present on tactile simulations, and then tactile stimulation, sorry. And then finally, we did our own research to balance it out and see what works best.
Okay, I have a question here. Will the SDK will be made available for community mods? But I think the SDK will be publicly available, right?
Yeah, SDK will be publicly available.
From BMAC. Okay. How about replacement of the motors and trackers?
Yes, so that comes back to the waterproof thing.
Warranty info.
So yeah, that can't be fixed because of the simple fact that we made the suit waterproof. So you can't have both of them. So once you have kind of made it waterproof, there's very less chance that people can open it and then change it themselves. So we would always recommend that you send it to or get it repaired by contacting us. And then with the serial number that we'll provide, you can get it repaired as well. But I think it's a very rare chance that if you follow the instructions and don't put it in a washing machine, you'll be more than fine with the motors and everything.
Don't put it in the washing machine. Hand wash only. I think keep repeating that.
I think we talked a little bit about recalibrating the height. So, because the question is, if people are changing the height because of changing space in VR and the calibration in game, will that also break the calibration of the suit? So the initial calibration, that's also, is that a separate thing to the calibration that a game has, or how does that fit together?
Right. So there are two steps to that. The first calibration you do is for the software to let you know where the sensors are on the suit itself. So for example, the sensor for the elbow is right over here, but it could have been somewhere else entirely. It could have been on the front. So the first step is to let the software know where your sensors are. And with your headset and floor, calibrate the height as well, so that it knows what your bone lengths are. As long as you keep the height that is in that calibration exactly the same as in any game that you're playing, the game wouldn't know the difference. So that's the point. So games will always have their own calibration, because just like with Vive trackers, you can place them on different places. You can have your hip sensor oriented in the wrong way as well. And then inside the game, you always do a T-pose calibration, or you put the trackers in the right position. So at the end of the day, the game knows where the trackers are. So you will need to calibrate inside the game, but you will also need to calibrate first the suit itself, which is a one-time calibration. At least that's what we think you should need. But of course, when you wear it the second time, you're bound to move the sensor a little bit. It's not going to be exactly at the same place. It won't change the tracking by too much, but if you feel so, you can just open the software again and just quick calibrate it. It just takes us a couple of minutes, and then it should work for the duration of the game.
Okay. Talking about calibration, we have here on our show notes also the accuracy. And you mentioned that it might shift around with the suit a little bit. So what are the experiences where the sensors are shifting? Is the accuracy good enough for the body not to realize, because the brain can totally handle if something is a little bit off. I have experienced that myself when the calibration of the controllers was a little bit off. Your brain can adapt to that, to what it sees. So I could imagine that's the same with the sensors on the suit.
So there are two things. I think one is the rotational accuracy, which is it's an IMU suit, so it's very high, so you know exactly what the rotation is. And if your height is correct, your joints are also in the right place, as long as you calibrate it correctly. The second thing is, does it move? If you're ordered the suit for the right size, then it won't really move once you have worn it.
Okay.
So if you calibrate in the beginning, you can wear it for hours and the sensors won't move much.
Mm-hmm.
But
somehow the back of my suit just vibrated.
Someone poke you or something. So I think if you wear a tight suit, then
sorry to interrupt you, but Dreamer is using probably the corresponding command.
Yeah, he's probably over in my chat.
No, he was doing that in mine. Okay, maybe in yours. Okay, well, I don't know. Yeah, because we have some interaction here in the live recording. You can shock Cypher's suit a little bit, and Cypher was just wondering why, because we were trying to get this set up with the clicky thing, but that didn't properly work. So we are with the command here going, and that still works. And you can poke Cypher a little bit for those who are just joining in.
All of a sudden, my other sensors started going off, and I was like, "Wait, what?" So the shock left chest will only work in my chat. It's only shock in Corben's chat. He only has exclamation point shock set up.
All right. Okay, sorry. So the accuracy for the IMUs is high enough so that the body won't, or the sensors won't change, and probably if they are like moving a little bit, the brain would not really realize, I could imagine.
No, but the accuracies will be more than good enough for immersion inside VR.
Yeah.
It will be undistinguishable from the current tracking methods, absolute tracking methods like trackers and everything.
Absolutely.
So I'm just looking here for bullet points we have still on our show notes. We have talked about games, but which games are currently being worked on, modding or native? Are there already? Yeah.
So for the native ones, I think the only one which, because the SDK has to be released public yet, we have to finalize it, and that will be released soon. So native ones are the only ones which we had developed with our SDK, the demos that we'll provide. And our hope is that as more developers get access to the SDK and the suit, then we'll get more of the native support. For the body tracking, it will work out of the box for any game which uses TeamVR trackers. You get access to 10 trackers. You can, of course, disable some of them. You can change their roles around. And then, for example, in a game with just 3 trackers, you can just forget about the rest of them. It will work just as fine. For the haptics, we would require mods currently. And our focus has been more on getting shipping started as soon as we can and the compliance and all that. So we haven't been able to get a hold of all the mods, but we have people who are working on VRC. So I think one of the backers who had early access to the suit was also helping with the VR chat, and with the new OSC that was released in the update for VRC, it gives you a much better way to activate the haptics rather than using it, interfacing with Steam VR like people used to do before. So VR chat is definitely something that would be the first one thing to come for the haptics. And we have a list of mods on our Discord channel as well that people have been requesting. And as the SDK gets public, more and more these mods will be covered.
So shipping timeline, we have talked about that a little bit already. So it's about to ship. So backers can expect their suits in the next few weeks, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so the first batch should be within the next week or so. I think the first week of April should be. Oh. Depends on the DHL or FedEx, but I think towards the end of the week, before that, you should expect the first patch.
Ooh, that's really, really close.
So excited.
Yeah, we have talked also about the sensor density for hands, and yeah, Shockwave Future. I mean, getting the suit now ready is, of course, the main goal, and getting that shipped to their backers and then going retail. But are there plans already for additional products from Shockwave, like gloves, a cap, shoes, Shockwave 2?
Shoes. So I think two of these things have been considered quite some time back. The first was, of course, the gloves. And like I mentioned, it's a different ball game together. Just with tracking, you can have gloves with just finger tracking, and that's more than good enough for gestures and other interaction. But if you want to have a proper haptics glove, it needs a lot of background and research. And I think after we are done with the suit, we'll have a more varied team, like a more diverse team with people in different expertise. And then I think the first order of business for the next product would be the gloves. That's our primary target. And other than that, another important thing would be the software part. So we plan to have not just have the hardware, but also have some games which we will release. So we were indeed in the software, like in the game development business before going to the suit, right? So we used to develop experiences for people. So that's something that will continue, as we'll have people who will develop games. And so you can expect more games from our side as well, other than what the developers using our SDK will. And I'm not so sure about the cap as of now. We haven't really thought about it. But for Shockwave 2.0...
Shots.
Oh yeah, that people have requested that. But for Shockwave 2.0, that will be a major, I think, uphaul in how we develop the suit. The fabric would be different. The way the electronics are assembled would be different. And that would, of course, require a lot more infrastructure and a much bigger team, which I think over the course of the next few years, we should be able to get. So these are the two, I think, future plans that we have for the company as a whole.
Okay. Yeah, regarding gloves, I could imagine that's a little bit tricky, because most people, at least when they are playing games in VR, they have a controller. So the gloves would have to replace that controller. And the controller, of course, I know the index controllers, at least in my opinion, are one of the better ones, where you can... where you don't have to hold them. You can open your hands and they don't fall down, but you can also grab them, and this will transport over in some games. Half-Life Alyx is one of the best examples, where you can crush a can with holding the controller pretty tight. Yeah. But you also use that with the analog stick or so for moving. And I could imagine there will be some pretty tough challenges to come over, because you don't have that anymore. Then you just have your hands, and how will you walk without having an analog stick?
Yes. So what you just mentioned is what in haptics is called force feedback. The fact that you're holding something and then your hand can't just go through it. So force feedback is also an emerging field of technology, and people have exoskeletons which like pull on the fingers and everything. So it's quite a uphill task. It's not so easy, but what you mentioned, it is something that will obviously increase immersion once you have that figured out. So you can grab onto things, even measure the temperature of things. So for example, if you hold something like with an ice cube, or go close to some, let's say, a flame or something. So you have multiple feedbacks, and that is going to be a big challenge, as something that has to be overcome. Other than that, the other big challenge would be, compared to controllers, would be the input. I think the fact that you don't have buttons. So gestures would be a big part of that. Of course, that has to be, again, coded in, and you reach the same problem of having a common platform for it. So,
Yeah.
So those are the two biggest challenges with gloves.
it's really, I mean, because you're taking away a lot of button tactility. So you would have to have something to replace it, like Crane was saying in chat, like in one of the omnidirectional treadmills, or even like the neural interface. If they get the neural interfaces working well enough to where you can just think run forward, and then you don't have to. You can just think run forward.
Yeah,
crazy future stuff.
That would be the future. Yeah. I think that would be...
I'm just reading from Shana to here. In version 2.0, we can work on a suit that will actually kill you if you die in the game. How immersive is that? Yeah.
We'll get to that.
And,
a little bit too immersive for my taste.
Shockwave officially at 12:30 p.m. Okay.
It would easy make things for the police a lot easier. They have all the data already, how it happened, when it happened, where it happened, who did it, etc. It's all done. Case closed.
This is one of those cases of should we, but we're not going to.
Yeah.
There's a long list of things for that one.
We don't need to enter the ultimate immersion into virtual reality, at least not in this stage of human evolution, in my opinion. we don't have to do full dive. Full dives.
So, Krindish, I guess regarding your question about the gloves, I think gloves is in the future, but is something Shockwave is thinking about. Won't be probably included in the first iteration, in the first set. That's currently not on the plan. Okay. Yeah. I think for most of the questions we have it. I see there is a Shockwave Q&A already available as a document.
Yeah. Yep.
Cypher, you linked that. Is there something special inside?
It's a series of questions that have been approved that we have known answers for. I guess we could go over real quick. It's just that doc that you linked me to, Akshay.
Yeah.
With the Q&A. Okay. So we got first one is any info on the final market price of the suit. I think we already covered that at less than 400. Correct?
Yeah.
See. Can standby or sleep mode be turned off for when I want to lie down for a long time in VR, but don't want to recalibrate every time you get up?
So, I mean, the suit sleeps if you do not connect anything to it after 10 minutes to save power. So, if you're connected to the PC, and it will just keep on moving, so you don't have to do anything after that. You can just use it as it is.
Next question is, will there be future opportunities to buy replacement IMU or haptic modules?
Right. So I think this was kind of answered before. So you have to...
Okay, yeah, a little bit further. So if you have issues with it, then send it in for warranty. Although the haptic modules on the Shockwave VR website, or shockwavesuit.com right now, you have a couple of like add-on things listed for shoulders and feet.
Oh, that was for the Kickstarter backers only. So initially,
okay.
What we had given in the campaign was 8 trackers, but now, just for example, the suit that you have has 12 of them. We added shoulder and feet trackers. So they could purchase that as an add-on if they wanted, but the final retail suit will only have 12 trackers. It will not be 8, so that doesn't count that.
This one was answered a little bit earlier too. So how much will the suit? How much give will the suit have? And you said it would range about 4 sizes.
Yeah.
Total. Particularly VR chat related, setup of avatars for haptics. Is that going to be required? I think you had mentioned that it's just going to require a mod for all the haptic related things on the suit, correct? Okay. So maybe on that one.
We got here, sorry to interrupt, for those just joining, can you just give again a brief description of what Shockwave is? So Shockwave is via Kickstarter founded haptic suit that can do motor feedback
suit.
And it can do tracking. It will work with SteamVR out of the box because it's using the SteamVR tracking mechanisms. It will be available pretty soon for retail. It is pretty soon shipping for the backers. As said, it was a successful Kickstarter campaign. And successful Kickstarter campaigns, that already says something. Because nowadays, Kickstarter, we had some issues with Epic buying out some stuff, and then people lost a lot of trust in Kickstarter campaigns. So still being able to fulfill Kickstarter campaigns, that's pretty awesome. It will wear on your, you will wear it on your body, of course. And how many sensors were there? 40?
For the haptics, there's 72.
72. Mm-hmm.
2 haptics and 12
and
tracking.
for 12 for the tracking.
And 12 for the tracking, okay. But what was the SteamVR can only handle 10, or is that about to be increased? Or can you choose which one it should take then?
StreamVR can only handle 10. That's all the bones that it has, joints it has access to.
Mm-hmm.
It's shoulders, arms, knees, and hip and chest and foot. So that's 10 trackers, plus you have the headset and the 2 controllers, which combine together for a 13-point tracking system. So the Shockwave Suit has 12 IMU trackers and works with the headset and 2 controllers. So it's 12 plus 3 in a way.
Yeah, that's the short recaption of what the Shockwave Suit, the Shockwave Haptic Suit is. All right. Yeah, Cypher? Do you have still points?
Oh yeah, got a few more questions though. Curious if you'll be sending, or you're seeking to send this demo units out to content creators like Thrill Seeker or any of the more, I can't think of words. Yeah, any of them.
That's a good point actually, and very important at the moment, because a third-party review for which has a lot of outreach, for example, for a YouTube review, is very essential for us right now. Yeah, I mean, with especially for retail.
I got shocked. That's why I did that. I got shocked.
So for retail, for example, so the Kickstarter backers will already receive their suits very soon, and then when we open for retail, we'll begin with a review first, so more people know about the suit.
Excellent. And so when will you be going full retail and allowing people to purchase the suit? Has that been decided on yet?
So that has not been completely, it's not set in stone, but it should be sometime in the month of April, towards the end, probably.
That's
pretty soon, yeah.
For consumers to be able to purchase Shockwave.
So that's within the next 5 weeks or so.
Yeah, probably.
And I guess it will ship worldwide. Will you have? Will it only be available online, or will there be even like retail stores?
For now, it will only be available from the website, but it will ship worldwide. That is also for Kickstarter as well, and we'll actually have a list of countries, and when you buy them, but most of the countries that are usually in Kickstarter will also be there. So most of North America and Europe and parts of Asia.
Okay.
I'm going to combine these 2 questions just because they're basically related and you already kind of answered them. It says, with the recent shipping announcement, do we have an estimate of how many suits will go out in, say, a week? And what kind of shipping do you use to get the suits out? Will they be tracked?
Right. So the batch size will, of course, change with time. So the first batch we have is around it will start with around 50, but again, they're not shipped at once. So 50 are assembled and then shipped in batches. So the first one of around 10 is already shipped or given to the courier, and then it keeps on increasing each week. And for the tracking, you can track your shipment because the courier itself will send you an email, and will privately send an email as well from our support email. So that's not much of an issue.
So we already covered the power specs. There's a question about that. Let's see, and just to reiterate, it's 4.5 volts at about 800 milliamp total power requirement for it. and you can use recommended to use alkaline batteries with the battery pack, or at least an amp battery power bank.
All right.
It's a multi-part question.
Yeah, I think we are mostly through with our questions that we wanted to know, and we have answered already some questions from chat. So if you still have some questions, let us know. Because otherwise, I think we are through for our first interview with Shockwave, huh?
I still have 4 questions. I was just reading one. I was making sure that I understood the question before I read it.
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood. I thought you were through the list already.
No, it's all good. We also have a question in chat about the latency on it, and I'd like to speak on that since I have the demo unit. It's fast. Like, there's no noticeable difference of me waving my arm like this. It happens right now, and I'm super impressed with the behavior of it, especially since it's over Bluetooth. You know how sometimes you get some lag with controllers or whatever, using an Xbox controller or whatnot. While I was testing with this, no drops, and it was immediate. Felt great. So let's see.
Can this be worn under clothes?
Of course. Just need to have clothes that fit over top of it. It's actually very, very form-fitting, so most of your clothes will probably fit over top of it anyway.
Will that affect the tracking, though? Because you're covering the trackers?
Well, the internal IMUs don't depend on anything that will... Of course, if you're wearing a metal shield, that will change things.
so guaranteed,
Who's Iron Man?
This will not work. This will not work if you're wearing a suit of armor under or over top of it, because it will mess with the magnetic tracking. so
that goes
don't wear this in full armor. I would think. Unofficially. Okay. Let's see. So as they're asking about Avatar's OSC functionality, and if you're looking at doing any kind of integration with the OSC communications.
I think this was mentioned, right? We talked about this, like with VRC, OSC.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is being worked on as well.
Okay.
That's actually very important for.
And I'm filtering a couple of these.
Yeah, I think a lot of this has already been covered. So how do you clean the suit we got?
Yep. How do you clean the suit is really the last question. So I think, we've gotten all these answered.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank
you
so much for joining us, Akshay.
Yeah, thank you so much. We have been asking you some holes.
Thank you.
That was really, really interesting. And I guess we will have a follow-up episode, at least once you have been shipping and more people got theirs and the software has matured. And it's integrated actually in more games and software as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would love that.
What games we're playing.
Yeah, this was a Shockwave-centric episode. So the games we are playing, we will talk about that maybe next time again. But if you like, we can put that at the end. So, and I think we ask Akshay, what games are you playing? Especially, are you playing games in VR with that suit already?
No, we don't get enough time to play games as of now. I used to play a little bit of VRC from time to time, but recently it's not been.
I could imagine, especially now the deadlines are coming closer, you're probably working a lot.
So we spend a lot of time in VR, but not with games.
That's part of being a developer in virtual reality. You don't get much time to actually play.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Alrighty. Yeah, I guess we can conclude this episode for today. Thank you very much to everybody who was joining live here. Thank you so much for Cypher to co-hosting this. And of course, thanks a lot to Akshay for asking, for answering all our questions. And thank you so much for joining.
Big thank you for both of you for taking so much time at the beginning trying to get something fun working that we just couldn't quite work out.
We might have it gone. We might have it working for the next time then.
It'll work eventually.
Yeah. Right on. So yeah, that has been the episode for today. Thank you so much for watching again. See you on the next episode. Everybody have a good one, and bye-bye.